It's a great pleasure to be here, and I'm very grateful to the organisers for inviting me. But I was asked to talk about DermNet New Zealand, and actually, I've almost never talked about it, and I started with a single slide and got a bit stuck. So I'm probably going to bore you with more slides. So I asked my daughter, what on earth am I going to talk about? And she says, just tell a story, Mum. So I'll tell a story. Next, figure out which button to press. So we start off with About Us pages on websites. So I thought I'd just do an About Me. I do lots of things, but teledermatology is really my love, and the DermNet New Zealand just was a branch of that, really. But I have done a few other things, as you can see. So I've got lots of conflicts because I'm founder and chief editor of DermNet New Zealand, and we take filthy lucre. So if any of you have any alternative to taking money from drug companies, please see me afterwards. But they are wonderful. They really are. They keep it going. So remember that. And I've got a usual list of rubbish to talk about. So this is the current front page of DermNet New Zealand, and this is a compromise. It is about to change to something a little bit more exciting. But you can see that it includes a Twitter from yesterday, so it is completely contemporary, when I had the privilege of meeting Lord and Lady Swinfen, who set up a worldwide telemedicine network 18 years ago, and it is the longest running worldwide telemedicine network, and that's the House of Lords, where I had lunch yesterday. So my fame has spread further than this room. So you can reach it from various different website addresses, and we started off with one that's not there. That's funny. DermNet.org.nz. The current owner of the website is an independent charitable trust, and the lawyer rang me up with great excitement. He said, I've been registering charities for 20 years, and this is the first one that got through on the first go. So whoever it is in the government charities office understood that health information is really important. And I'm very grateful for the trustees, who are all my mates, and they're all dermatologists, for their support. So let's put the beginning in context. The first website, info.cern.ch, was launched in 1991. Tim Berners-Lee was the inventor of the World Wide Web. And it wasn't until the World Wide Web got going and CERN delivered it to the world for free in 1993 that the modern world began. In 1993, many of you may remember 1993, there were only 130 websites. Just think of it. We registered in September 1995, the same year as Amazon and eBay, 3 years before Google, 6 years before Wikipedia, 10 years before YouTube. There were 23,500 websites in 1995. By 2000, there were 10,000 health websites, but they are no longer counted, so I can't tell you how many there are now. But I can tell you there's more than 1 billion all kinds of websites. But we seem to have managed to stay. So let's think back. 1995. You got a 0.5 megapixel digital camera. Just imagine. You could buy a DVD for the first time ever. Not many people had mobile phones, but those that did were carrying bricks with antennae. My first modem was a dial-up. You remember that noise? Bill Clinton was the president of the United States, but we were only interested in Mount Ruapehu because it erupted and we were on the slopes. We got down safely. So our resources in 1995 were basically printed journals, a few books, an Index Medicus. And you young ones out there, you have no idea. We were all absolute experts in complete ignorance. So the history of DermNet, these are some different screenshots. If you go into a website called Wayback, you can find, I think there's something like 762 screenshots of DermNet over the years in its various iterations. The most recent iteration has been going since about 2000 until the 6th of August this year when we changed to the new one. So we started really as a sponsored lunch when I think it was Shearing lady invited the dermatologist to listen to the internet, and the first question was, what's the internet? And the second question was, who has email? And I'd had mine for about a week, and there were two others in the room, and we had a talk by a nerd that nobody understood. But at the end of it, I talked to Shearing and said, you know, that's not a bad idea. We've got 100 printed information sheets in our clinic that we hand out to people. We could share that with the world. You know, we only hand out some of them about once every 5 years, so it could be useful. So we employed a summer student and uploaded the 100 information sheets and found a few pictures to add to it, which were scanned transparency slides, because this is way before any of us had a camera that took pixels. And so it went on. So what we've done in 2006 is completely redeveloped the website to provide a mobile responsive content management platform. And that's unfortunately essential in 2016. But it's caused me a great deal of grief. From a one-woman operation, I now employ people. I have bills that go into the $10,000 a month level, and it's quite a new world for me, and I'm no longer in control. But that's what happens. And the only reason we did that really was because of Google. But we'll come to that. So in 2016, the top websites are these two, NIH, which has a global rank of 254, and WebMD, that has a global rank of 389. How healthy are Clinton and Trump? The top 10 dermatology sites, DermNet New Zealand is the #1 according to Alexa.com, but we have a global rank of 36,893, which indicates that this audience is not typical. So a few figures. This is my bragging bit. There are 360 visitors online right now. There are 2,300 skin topic pages, 25,000 clinical images, and I think that's a typo. It's supposed to be 42 million page views in the past year. So that's quite an achievement, really. So how do we know whether a website is worth visiting? Well, since we're going to the #1 health website, NIH, I thought I'd look at what they say. And they say 5 quick questions can help you decide whether the site is a helpful resource. Who? Who runs the website? Can you trust them? So I guess some of you must trust me, and I'm not quite sure why. What does the site say? Do its claims seem too good to be true? When was the information posted or reviewed? Is it up to date? And this is the most embarrassing bit, because many of our pages say 1996. So I do depend on you to draw to my attention if there are serious errors and omissions. Part of this huge spend up getting rid of all the resources that we own, is to actually pay a few people to update the pages, because I can't do it anymore. I cannot keep up. Is that a dermatologist? Is it a medical writer? Is it somebody writing in and saying, you've got this wrong? And usually it's just a typo that's been there for 20 years. So please help. Let me know. And then we can prioritise that job. Where did the information come from? Is it based on scientific research? Well, as you know, there isn't much in dermatology, and most of what the Cochrane groups have looked at has insufficient evidence to support it. So it's come from my head, really. So if again, some of it is evidence-based and comes from other journals and books, but you know that they just repeat somebody else's rubbish that has been repeated over and over again over the years. So I really was hoping that by now this resource of information would actually have more facts than factoids. So again, if my pages are out of date and you have some real information to give us, please let me know so we can share it with the rest of the world. Why does the site exist? Is it selling something? Well, I don't know why it exists. And we do try and sell something, but we don't actually sell very much, which I will come to. And so our aim is to provide authoritative information about the skin. If a dermatologist hasn't written it, then at least they've read it. Well, I have anyway. And the information is written sometimes by dermatologists, but often it's by trainees. Some of them are trying to get into dermatology, so they're pre-trainees. Many of them are medical students with an interest in dermatology, or even those that don't have an interest in dermatology that are conscripted by me when I see them in the corridor. So we do require dates of authorship and lack of updates. Being readily accessible, I suspect, is why DermNet New Zealand has been a success. There's no charge, there's no password to put in, and the navigation is straightforward, or at least I thought it was until Monday, and I'll come to that one as well. Plain English. So we wrote this originally thinking that our audience was consumers, patients. But we soon learnt that they only come once, and actually they don't matter much. We're dealing to everybody on the planet that has any interest in the skin. So that includes a dermatologist, a school student, a librarian, a pharmacist, a pharmacologist, a pediatrician, a nurse, a relative, a friend, a nosybody. And we try and comply with the recommendations of Health on the Net code of conduct, which is pretty simple, really. So values, it will remain free while I'm still alive. I hope it'll remain user-friendly and plain English. We have 100 or more language translations by Google, bless its socks. But those who keep writing to me and telling me, your pages should be translated into whatever language it is today, this is unacceptable to use Google. I offer them the chance to do the deed themselves, and from time to time we do get a page translated into Belarusian or some other useful language. Reliability, authoritative, well, it's only authoritative if I say it is at the moment. Health on the Net code of ethics and evidence-based as far as dermatology goes. So ignorance is unacceptable and the patient is empowered by knowledge. So those are kind of principles by which I've had to defend the website against a degree of criticism in the old days, at the beginning, when people saw the internet as dangerous. And they hated me because patients would come to their surgeries with printouts up to here. They don't seem to do that anymore. Very interesting. We do have to have some legal rubbish. So it has been read by a lawyer who you know, usual lawyer thing, and said, oh, I suppose it's all right. Guidelines and standards. So Health on the Net Foundation Code of Conduct is pretty simple and has just a few lines of how a website should behave. Usability.gov is fantastic. So if any of you are writing web pages, I do recommend that you go to that resource because it tells you things like how to write a bullet point. And do you put a capital at the beginning and a full stop at the end or not? And that is very controversial. And the New Zealand government has a web toolkit, which one of these days I'll get round to reading. So these are the HON Foundation rules. Basically, to be authoritative, you have to say who the author is. And so if it's a medical student, we know it's good because they're very good at researching. Complementarity. We're not offering telemedicine on this, or at least teleconsultations. Privacy. Well, we don't have any personal data submitted to the site, so that's okay, apart from the images, and I'll come to them. Attribution. Therefore, we're supposed to have references, and we've got a few. Justifiability. Backup planes. Well, that's difficult. Transparency. That's usually fairly straightforward. Financial disclosures, we certainly identify our funding sources, and as a charitable organisation, that's in the public record, if you want to dig into it. And clearly distinguish advertising from editorial content, and as many of you know, that's actually quite hard to do at times. Usability.gov is really about the formatting of a web page, and the information and how you deliver it to the reader. The New Zealand Web Toolkit is a bit similar, only I haven't read it yet, so I can't really say that. So I was very shocked when I went to Bristol on Monday because our brand new website that my expensive team have told me is the bee's knees all over the world, and I'm not to worry about incompatible browsers because people who have those are idiots. But then I go to Bristol and I think, oh, I'll just look something up, as you do, you know. And I discover that the keywording on the topics page doesn't work. Because what if those of you who are in the NHS, are you all on IE8? Pretty much, right. Well, I suppose the world will move forward, but ours is optimised for a more modern browser. And I suppose one of these must be a pointer. Let's try that one. If you type in here, the stuff underneath, well, here we are. I started writing granuloma annulare because I wanted to look something up about that. And it's supposed to, all these things are supposed to disappear, and it's supposed to just pop up with granuloma annulare, and it works on my computer. And what's more, it's not supposed to look like this. So I instantly took these screenshots, sent them to my web developers, and said, you were supposed to have a notice pop up to tell people when it was an incompatible browser. So sorry, folks, the notice will appear next week and you'll be constantly annoyed by it. This is an incompatible browser. So I said, well, can't you make it compatible? And they said, no, we can't. So there we go. Resources. Well, resources, of course, we mainly use old-fashioned textbooks, PubMed, Medscape. Just mention ICD 11 beta because that is very handy for finding synonyms of things. And it does say at the bottom, this is not final, it's updated daily, it's not approved and not to be used, but it is really handy, and I'm very thankful for Robert for his efforts in the dermatology thing. So we do have more than 2,000 topics, diseases, conditions, dermatopathology, procedures and treatments. And you, as I say, you're supposed to type it in there and find them. We also have a Google custom search, so that's all gone wrong too, because that with the old system just found the page instantly, and now it gets rather convoluted and finds you all sorts of pages you don't want. So I'm not quite sure how to fix that. So it finds images, and it's not supposed to, because you're supposed to click on this button here to find the images. And if you do click on, we'll come to that. We see it's not in order. So the topic pages, they basically are all formatted fairly similarly. Some of them have ads. If you're in the UK, you may not see these ads. Lucky you. If you're in America, you see lots of them. Good source of income. And illustrations, which are these are thumbnails, and they're pretty low quality. So if you want something a bit better, then you click on them. So the topic structure is that we have synonyms, the name of the author, if we can remember what their name is, definitions, epidemiology, pathogenesis, clinical features, investigations, treatments, and outcomes is a standard list. We try and throw in some references and resources. So if you click on the tab that says images, you get all the images that are labelled with that keyword. And we're about to expand our image bank enormously, which is another little story. Yesterday, I sent an email to the university student person, said, I'm offering an internship to a medical student who is passionate about dermatology, and within 2 hours, I had 17 applications. So we took it down. My daughter has now got to sift through them. Very exciting, all these people who are passionate about dermatology. And they're going to be in my living room. I decided I'd have 3 after that instead of 1. It'd be much more fun for them. And they're going to expand this image library. And I have a partnership with Waikato District Health Board and the Medical Illustration Department, so that they're our biggest sponsor, really, Waikato, because they produce the clinical images. So let's talk about images. No image on that site that's dated newer than 2000 goes up without express patient consent for education publication. They haven't always expressly agreed to DermNet, although we do discuss it at the time. And you will perhaps notice that we minimize identifiable pictures, so there are hardly any full-face pictures, and there's almost no tattoos, and there's almost no pictures with jewellery in. We put up an unwatermarked 200 by 150 pix thumbnail, and that links to a watermarked 640 by 480 pix image. So if you're looking at a particular condition, you'll see little thumbnails, and then you click on one of them and see a high-quality image, which is watermarked. And what you're going to see next year is there's going to be a wee button that says, buy now. And we're developing, so the students are going to be not only increasing the free images for all of you to enjoy and to add to your PowerPoint presentations. Do remember there's some rules around that. But also, there are actually people who spend good money on images, and all we have to do is take the watermark off, and they pay for it. It's quite extraordinary. But they do, and we think if we've got an image shop, that might stop all the boring emails that I have to actually find these images for. So permission to use them is freely given, but there are some rules around it, and this is where you read it. There's Creative Commons. Wikipedia does Creative Commons. Lots of other people do Creative Commons, and we do too. So if you're going to use our images, just remember to attribute them either by retaining the watermark or mentioning the site, or preferably both. If you're a commercial, we're going to charge you for them. CME, we've got some very old lectures that I did in the early, more than 10 years ago now. But the only extra thing was we're adding some quizzes to that. And we already have 55 quizzes, and you could get a certificate if you really want it. Sun protection widgets, you don't see one in the UK, but if you are in New Zealand or the United States, you can find out your UVI now, wherever you live. I've talked about languages, social media. That's a responsibility of Victoria Scott-Lang, who's done a fabulous job there. And we're about to tweet this lecture, so that'll be interesting. So about 2 million visitors, up to maybe 2.5 million this month to the website. And 1 in 3 of them is a repeat visitor, and they are 16% from the UK. Mobile is increasing, so mobile and tablet between them are now 2/3 of all visitors. Desktop is much less popular these days, which is quite interesting, and it's the reason we had to change to the new system, because the old system wasn't compatible. So those are some figures. Most of them come from Google, some of them don't. These are some popular topics, usual sort of thing you know in dermatology. Right now, it's quite fun watching these buttons move. There's people, the 350 or whoever on right now, you can see where they are and what they're reading now. I could do without the comments. Usually, so many. So I have a list of signatures, and the most common one to go out is, sorry, we don't provide a clinical help. So it's interesting how feedback has changed, because in the early days, people thought DermNet Museum was fantastic, and they used to tell us so. But now it's just kind of life as normal and what they expect. So I don't get those anymore. No one writes the stuff now. Instead, they write, please help me with my terrible skin disease. So we are all still needed for our individual patients. Why we went to the new system was because of the mobile problem, and an email from Google that said we were 100% incompatible, which was a blow, because a lot of money later. And there are some benefits, that it looks different on different platforms, and there's some little tool tips which are quite handy. You hover over a word you don't understand, and it's supposed to give you some idea. So we're going to get rid of all the translations of erythema, brackets, red skin, because we don't need it anymore. You can just hover over it, and it'll tell you it's red skin. Disadvantage is money. And I'm no longer in control, and it's slower, and lots of errors have crept in. So I'll go even greyer in here. These people are very important to me. These are my colleagues that have supported me through the last 22 years, and I'm hugely grateful to them. I'm also hugely grateful to all the volunteers all over the world who have contributed to the website. Some of them are paid, but most of them are not paid. These are some of the paid ones, and these are some of the less paid ones, but I think everyone gets quite a lot out of it. They really enjoy it, and I get many emails from people saying, I got into dermatology, and it's all because of the page I wrote on DermNet. I can see time's up, and you don't really want. I'm also very grateful to this gentleman here, who's Professor Raimo Suhonen in Finland, because many of our best images were supplied by him. And images have also come from some other sources. I've mentioned the Waikato District Health Board. Money. More, please. We do have commercial sponsors, and I'm awfully grateful for their support, so please support them in the usual way. These people are good because they get the ads in the States, which I don't have to look at, so that's great. But unfortunately, some of you do, and you will see ads all over the place. But remember, we depend on them. Future plans, we've got heaps of them. I'm really grateful to Richard Ashton, who'll be here tomorrow, and he is supporting DermNet by providing a tool which is going to match his book. So that's fantastic, and you'll be very, his book is the bestseller in dermatology. And this is going to be reproduced in some form on DermNet next year. I've written a book too. Put a plug in. Buy my book. No, don't buy my book. You don't need to. It's all from DermNet. But apparently some people still like to read paper books, so if they do, they're very welcome. So it's a derivative. And these are my favourite people who make it all work. So Lauren just joined the team a few days ago. She's from Scotland, that's my daughter. This is Noah, who's beavering away trying to fix all the mistakes. And Claudia's the boss of the new web company, and I'm sorry I've gone over time.